Hello, good evening everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel, and today I'm going to be reviewing the hottest movie in Nigeria right now, Gangs of Lagos.
Who decides where we are born, the life we have? Saleko is the jungle. Everyone does what they must to survive.
Power. 1,000,001 people willing to die for a cause they know absolutely nothing about.
Let's go!
I got my man.
This movie is by Jade Osiberu, and I've watched some of Jade's movies previously, like Sugar Rush and The Brotherhood, and I enjoyed those two movies. So that was why when I saw the trailer for this one and I saw it was Jade Osiberu, I just decided to watch it. This movie stars Toby Bakre, Adesua Wellington, Iyabo Ojo, Toyin Abraham, Pasuma. The very first scene of this movie shows Eyo Masquerades doing their performance on the streets of Isaleko, and it showed. I really loved the opening scene. It showed rich Lagos culture, and it was the next scene that quite shocked me, because one of the Eyo Masquerades went into a home and shot this man dead in front of his wife and his baby. It was quite shocking. It was contrasting, because whenever someone thinks of Eyo Masquerades, you will never imagine such crime associated with them, right? So that was what, and I like that this scene was included, because it's made me pick interest, of definitely to make anyone pick interest after watching such a thing. And so after that scene, we have opening credits is called, where the names of the actors and the names of the people who did the movies will be showed, right? So I really loved it. Like, the opening credit, it showed the pictures. It showed pictures of some of the scenes we're going to see in the movie, and the pictures were actually statues of the actors, and it was so cool. I really love that. I've never seen that in a Nollywood movie. I don't think I've ever seen that in any movie at all. So this was so cool. I really liked it. The next thing we see is two young boys actually robbing a woman. They put a knife to the woman's daughter's neck, and they tell her to give them her bag, and she does, because she's afraid for her daughter's life. After that, we see different people living their lives in Isaleko and the different things that they do as their hustle. And we are told by the narrator, who the narrator happens to be Toby Bakre. We are told by the narrator that at the end of every day's hustle, there's a particular person they all go to see to give a portion of what they've made for that day, and the person's title is Elinio. So we see this man going to meet the Elinio, and then the Elinio has this discussion with this man, with two men actually. This man who we followed into the Elinio's house, and some other guy. So the Elinio has a discussion with them. He tells them there's an upcoming election and they need 15 local governments to vote for their party, and all those political stuff like that. And the first man is like, yes, Elinio, yes, we're going to do that. It's a very simple job. And the other man is quite uninterested. So the Elinio tells the first man to excuse him so he can talk to the other man. The first man leaves, and then he tells the other man why he's not excited about this new job. And this man tells him, okay, it's because he has made enough money in his life. He doesn't want to live that gangster life anymore, so to say. This person who is uninterested in the street life anymore, his name is Nino Lowu. So the Elinio advises Nino Lowu not to quit the street life, because Nino Luwo is so good at this street life of a thing, at the street life also. So, and the Elenio even tells him he's so good that he doesn't have any contenders, not even the man who excused them, who the Elenio calls Kazim. So he says not even Kazim can do what you do. It's as good as you are, so why would you throw it away? Because of what? And so the Elenio sort of convinces Nino Luwo to continue in the street life. So after that discussion, we see the Elenio goes back into his living room, where the woman who had been robbed earlier is already waiting for him in his living room, and she tells him of the incidents of the two boys who had robbed her and taken her bag, and she wants the Elenio to please handle it for her. So one of Elenio's boys brings one of the boy who stole her bag from her, and then when the Elenio asks this boy, like, who are you? And the boy calls himself Obalola. That's the king of tomorrow's king, right? So he calls himself Obalola. And the Elenio is like, if you're Obalola, then who is your father? The boy tells Elenio his father's name, Ogumola. And the Elenio recognizes the father's name. So Elenio actually knows this boy's father, and knows that the boy's father is late. So he starts to, greet the boy like, oh, you are the son of Ogumola that we know, and so on, so on, and so forth. So the thing is, you are going to have to return this woman's bag to her. Elenio tells Obalola. And the Obalola tells Elenio that the woman had actually gone to report to the police before coming to meet the Elenio. So this gets the Elenio angry, and he tells the woman to go back to the police who she had reported to go and find her bag. And he lets Obalola go with the woman's bag. The narrator then explains that one of their biggest rules in Isaleko is that you never report any crime to the police. So that was what the woman did that was wrong. And when Obalola leaves the compound of the Elenio, he meets Nino Luwo at the gate, and Nino Luwo is quite impressed with what Obalola has done. And Nino Luwo then tells Oba that he's going to have to return the bag to the woman and all that. So they return the bag to the woman, and Nino is discussing with Oba, asking him stuff, and then Nino gives Oba his house address, that whenever Oba needs help, Oba can come to his house to look for him. And Nino also gives Oba money. So as Oba has collected the money and is actually rejoicing that he has made money, we see his mother comes there to grab him away to a deliverance session. They go for the deliverance session, and the deliverance session is quite sorrowful to watch. The people who are doing the deliverance use brooms to beat Obalola in an effort to drive away or ward off the evil spirits that are in him. When watching that scene, it's quite sorrowful. It's shocking to watch. It can be surprising for someone who has never seen such a thing before. For those of us who stay in the south, as in southern Nigeria, these kind of things aren't quite new. You see such things regularly, but I can get that for someone who doesn't stay in such an environment, it's quite shocking. It's almost unbelievable, but these kind of things do happen. So after the deliverance session, Oba's mother was apologizing to him and explaining her own reason why she brought him for that deliverance session. She doesn't want him to be possessed by evil spirits and all of that. But Oba is offended, and he runs away from home and goes to Nino's house. And by the time Nino has seen the way Oba looks, Nino adopts Oba as his son. The next morning, we see Oba's mother coming to Nino's house asking for her child. And when she sees Oba in the house, because Nino didn't allow the mother in, so she sees her child in the house and she begs him to come out so they can go home together. Oba refuses to follow his mother, and so out of that pain and anger that her son has refused to follow her, Oba's mother lays a curse on him, that the cause was that the death that killed his father is also going to kill him as well. Okay, that was quite, I felt like that was harsh. I felt like it was harsh, like, because he was a child. The best she would have done was to give him time, and keep coming every day and keep coming every day until he eventually follows her home. But I don't know, or well, the story was well written anyway, so I guess it was anger that made his mother to curse him that way. After that scene, the narrator says he never saw his mother again after that day, after she left the house. And Nino continued to be his father, and he was a good father. Surprisingly, he was surprisingly a good father. He sent Oba to school. He did everything that a good father was supposed to do for him. And there was this place where Nino had driven somewhere, and he gave Oba a piece of chocolates and told Oba not to come down from the car no matter what. He left Oba in the car alone. But Oba was hearing noise, sort of screaming. He decided to come down to check out what was going on, and then he walked in on Nino and Kazim from the other scene, and some other man who we later know is Ekun. He walks in on the three of them, torturing a man. The three of them were torturing a man, and Nino finally shoots the man dead. Oba is scared and he tries to run away, but they hear him. The three men hear him, and then Eku brings him into the room. Kazim was a bit offended that Nino had brought a child to that scene where they were committing such a crime, and Nino explained that his wife was not at home and he didn't want to leave Oba alone in the house, so that's why he brought him. And then Kazim was like, anyway, it's not like it's actually a bad idea, because for Oba to have put a knife to that woman's daughter's neck to steal her bag, then Oba is fit to do the kind of work they are doing, as in killing people. But Nino refuses and says he doesn't want that kind of thing for Oba. So Nino lives with Oba and goes back home. What started getting around that Nino Lowo was Olorogun's favorite, and Olorogun was the godfather of the Southwest. So because Nino Lowo was Olorogun's favorite, it was quite obvious that Nino was going to be the next Elenio. And so people started coming to Nino Lowo to ask for favors and all that. And this particular woman came to tell Nino that a man promised her daughter life overseas, but she has not heard from her daughter, and she would like Nino to help her out with that. So Nino Lowo asked who the man is, and the woman says the man's name is London. He calls himself London. So Nino Lowo was like, okay, he knows who London is, and he promises the woman he's going to get her daughter. So Nino Lowo and his gang, that's Nino Lowo, Kazim and Ekon, with the other guys in the gang, they go to London's club and they demand the girl from London, and London gives them the girl back. And we can see from that exchange that Nino Lowo and London are not cool with each other. They have bad blood between them. They keep telling themselves, okay, we'll see next time and all that. But Nino Lowo was able to leave that club with the woman's daughter. We also see that Oba has a crush on this girl called Tenny, and Tenny happens to be Kazim's daughter. So there was this scene where Oba and Tenny were discussing what they would like to be in future, and Tenny says she would like to be chief judge. Oba was telling her he would like to become a Lenio someday, but Nino Lowo had discouraged him and said instead of becoming a Lenio or living that street life, he prefer Oba be an economist and probably go on to be the CBN governor, which I think is a very good dream. It's one of the things that shows that Nino Lowo was actually a good father. Oba's friends, that's the other boy that Oba stole that woman's bag with, whose name is Ifi. Ifi says he wants to be a musician, And then they have another friend who is Gift, and Gift says she wants to be Ife's manager when they grow up. So they all share their dreams and aspirations, right? Nino Lowo also, we see that Nino Lowo also has affection towards Ife, because he goes to Ife's house, he gives Ife's mother money and helps support them, because Ife's father is also late, just like Oba's father is. So it's like he kind of adopted Oba's friends as well. The next scene shows Nino Lowo dead on the streets, and everybody comes out to see his dead body. There's crying, there's everything. Nino's wife is there, she's shedding tears. Oba is there shedding tears. You see Ekun, everybody is so sad, everybody is so sorrowful. And immediately after that scene, we see that there's a fight. There's a fight between Nino's men and London's men, because Nino's men believe that it was London who had killed Nino Lowo. So they do these fights and all that, and I liked the soundtrack for the fight scene. I liked the soundtrack. It made it a bit light to watch for me. It made it a bit light, but I love the soundtrack. It was so cool. And during the fighting, we see there's a place where Kazim wanted to use an axe to hit London at the back, but the axe didn't get through to London, and it felt like I think that meant that London was fortified from any iron attacks. So but they kept fighting, and at the end of the day, we see a lot of dead bodies on the streets. The narrator tells us that when a king dies in Yoruba culture, he cannot be buried alone. He has to be buried with other people. And so that's why he believes that Nino Lowo was also a king, because of all the men that died on the day that he died as well. After that scene, we open to 15 years later, and Oba, Gifts and Ife go to Nino Lowo's grave, and they say they always come there from time to time. And in these 15 years, we see that Ife, Gifts and Oba are now working for Kazim, and Kazim is now the new Eleniyo. Ife is Kazim's money collector, while Gifts and Oba, they are the cleanup men, the cleanup guys. How do I say that now? They clean up stuff for Kazim. That's what they do. Why Ife is the money? There was this scene where Oba and Gift walked into this auto repair shop, and they wanted to bring a guy to Kazim, but they had to fight their way through to get to the guy that they wanted to bring to Kazim. I liked that scene. That fight scene was so cool. Like, Toby Bakre is so good with action scenes. Like, from watching Jadi's movies over the years, I've seen that, like, if you need a Nigerian actor to give you the best action scene, I think Toby Bakre. No, I know Toby Bakre is the person that you should go for. He's going to deliver so well. And to my surprise, Adesua Itomitu was quite good with that fight scene. Like, I was so shocked. Like, wow, she could act that. She was quite fast. I didn't think she could do that, because anytime I see her in movies, I just associate girliness with her. But she was able to do this tomboyish role, as in she was so good with it. It was so perfect. So like, that fight scene was so great. I really enjoyed it. And then yes, they were able to bring the guy that Kazim needed. They were able to deliver him, but Kazim took the guy to a butcher shop. He actually owns the butcher shop, and we see that he doesn't kill only animals, he also kills humans as well. So he ended up killing this guy that Oba brought to him. And after killing the guy, he tells Oba that his daughter Tenny, who had been studying abroad, told him that she wanted to come back to Nigeria. And even though he advised against it, she insisted that she wanted to come back to Nigeria. So what he wants Oba to do is that he wants Oba to be Tenny's bodyguard and driver, to always protect her no matter what. And Oba accepts the job, and then Kazim settles him with 50,000. Oba accepts it and takes the money home and is getting ready for the job that's coming, right? So, on watching that scene, I felt bad. I didn't immediately get that Oba was also bad about that, but I personally felt bad because this is the Tenny that he had the crush on when he was much younger. They all come from the same environment. Yes, they all come from the same environment. They are all from the same Isaleko. Their fathers all did basically the same job, and then all of a sudden Tenny is sort of placed higher than them, higher to the extent that Oba now has to be a driver. Man, that was bad. No, it was insulting. It was worse than bad. It was insulting. We see that Oba's plan is to leave Nigeria and go to San Francisco to start coding for a living, because he too is beginning to get tired of that street life. If he is now a part-time musician, just like he said when he was younger, he was a part-time musician by the stage name, and he went by the stage name Panama. We see Gifts, who is always there during his shows, so I'm guessing she was his manager, like she said to when she was younger. It's one of Ife's performance. The performance is being disrupted by someone called Kashokpe, shortened to Cash. Kashokpe was played by Zlatan. Kashokpe came there to disrupt Panama's performance, but Oba was able to stop him from getting further, and they kept exchanging words, just like in the case of Nino and London back then. Now we see that it's Oba and Cash who are having issues between themselves, so they kept exchanging words and everything, and then they left. Narrator tells us that Cash and Eko used to be Nino's men, but after Nino had died, they switched sides and decided to follow London, and he felt betrayed by that. He felt betrayed, so that's his own personal reason that for not liking Cash. Ife, Gift and Oba come to see Tenny after she arrives from abroad. They come to see her at her house, and she greets them, and they greet each other like the friends that they always were. And immediately Oba starts his job as her driver, right? Then Kazim sends Gifts on an errand with this guy called Terrible. Terrible was actually the guy who had brought little Oba after he stole the bag from that woman at the beginning of the movie. So Terrible still works for Kazim. So Kazim sends Gifts on an errand with Terrible, and then Kazim tells Ife that they are going to a place. Oba drives Tenny to her new house, the house her father Kazim bought for her, and it's a mansion in Banana Island. And Oba is like shocked, so shocked, like the house was so huge he had to ask Tenny, how many of you are going to stay here? And funny enough, she was laughing. Anyway, I guess she was now a spoiled brat, so that question seemed funny to her. But like, he was surprised, like, what? Is this the kind of mansion Kazim will buy for his daughter? Whereas he and other boys working under Kazim get peanuts from Kazim. That part was so relatable. I could relate with the way he was feeling, because Tenny just kept talking, but he couldn't hear anything that she was saying. He kept thinking about, like, what? We are doing all the hard work, and this is how Kazim and Tenny are enjoying our hard work. That kind of thing. Gifts actually follows Terrible to the port, right? She follows Terrible to the port, and we see that they are smuggling in arms. And then Ife drives Kazim to a barber shop, and Ife and Kazim both go into the barber shop, and the barber tells all his customers to leave because the Elenio is in the shop, right? So they leave, and then we see that the person that Kazim came to see is London. London was actually getting a haircut when Kazim came there to interrupt everything. The barber also leaves London and Kazim alone to have their discussion. Kazim calls London a betrayer because London doesn't want to support Olurugun. There's an upcoming election now. At this point, there's an upcoming election where Olurugun wants to come out as the governor, and a woman called Bamidele also wants to come out as a governor. And London is supporting Bamidele against the wishes of Olorogun. And definitely Kazeem is supporting Olorogun because Olorogun has made him the Eleniyan, right? So they start to argue about it, and Kazeem calls London an ingrate. He tells London that it was Olorogun that made him who he is, and then this is the way he wants to betray Olorogun. They argue, and then we just see that Kazeem brings out a gun and shoots London, and London dies in the barber shop. So Ify and everybody, Kazeem and Kazeem's men, they all run to the car and they try to get away. But Cash actually sees Ify running into the car. He shoots, but it misses. Ify doesn't get shot. After that scene is the next day, and Kazeem invites Ify over to his house, and he tells Ify that Ify has to kill the barber because the barber actually saw them going into the barber shop, and he might spill that it was Kazeem who had killed London. So he said when Ify has killed the barber, Ify should come to the club. He's going to introduce Ify to the producer who he has always wanted to meet and work with, right? So Ify says okay, he's going to do that, and then he goes to Oba and explains everything that happened to Oba, and he was so scared, and he tells Oba he has never killed anyone in his life. He doesn't have the heart to kill the barber and all that. So Oba tells Ify not to worry, that he's going to follow Ify to the barber's house where they will explain things to the barber and tell the barber to leave Lagos. And then after that, they will both go to meet Cash and explain to Cash that Ify had nothing to do with the death of London. The night where they were supposed to execute this plan, Gift was already at the club waiting for Ify Panama to show up. Ify was outside the barber's house waiting for Oba to come so they can execute their plan. And then Oba had to drive Tenny to the supermarket, and he begged her to be quick, right? But Tenny took all her time, and then she just was being, how will I say, was being cute with Oba. She just walked up to him, I got you this stuff, I got it that, and he was quite angry because she had wasted it. He just told her to get into the car, and then they have to go right now. So Tenny was like, or rather Tenny asked, Oba, is there anything I've done to you? Why are you behaving this way? If anything is bothering you, we need to talk. And Oba parks the car and says, okay, let's start talking. And I'm telling you, that was my best scene in the whole of the movie. Like, it was the best of the best. That's the top scene for me.
Problem, kí ló dé, kí ni mo ṣe fún ẹ?
Tell you free me. This one will be your matter.
Well, obviously something is wrong. And instead of you talking and taking it out on me, o jẹ́ ká sọ̀rọ̀ ńpa ẹ̀.
Tell you fẹ́ ká sọ̀rọ̀ ńpa ẹ̀. O fẹ́ ká sọ̀rọ̀. Jásọ bí bàbá ẹ lójoojúmọ́ ń rún àwa ẹrú kú. Tá ń bọ́ sí gbòòrò, tá ń dá àwọn èèyàn láàmú. Tálíkà èyí tó ní à ń gbẹ̀jẹ̀ wọn, à ń gbàgùn wọn, à ń kó fún bàbá àti ìwọ kó bá lè rówó sanlé ńlá tó ń gbé. You dey whine me? You know see that's where you dey stay? Little ìgbà yẹn 30, ìwọ nìkan dẹ̀ ń dágbé. O fẹ́ ká sọ̀rọ̀. Jẹ́ máa sọ. Jásọ bí bàbá ẹ ṣe ń rán àwọn ọmọ kéékèèké, àwọn tí ó tiẹ̀ tó 15. Ó bọ́ sí gbòòrò, ó ń jà, ó ń para wọn. Fún kí ni? Torí ẹ fẹ́ nípò.
Ìwọ jókòó fẹ̀ sẹ́yìn. Ṣèbó tẹ́ ẹ lọ́rùn ni. Èmi ni
Ọbalọ́lá Àkàndé ni mo ń wá ẹ kiri, tí mo ń ṣọ́ ẹ kiri. Mo di security, mo di driver. Mi ò ní nǹkan tẹ́mi fẹ́ fọ̀ látẹ̀mí ṣe àbí. Àwọn tẹ́mi fílẹ̀ nìkan. Ta ló ń ṣọ́ wọn? Ta ló ń gbèjà wọn?
Oba, I didn't ask for this life.
You didn't ask for this life. Ṣé ń gbọ́? Àwa yẹn la ask for this life, àbí? Ọ̀rọ̀ rírùn.
So Oba says, okay, You want to talk, right? We are going to talk. Let's talk about how your father is using us to do the dirty job so that you can stay in that mansion you are living in. A mansion that can take 30 people at a time. You are the only one staying there, and you want us to talk. Let's talk about how Oba says, let's talk about how a homie, I'm your driver, like Obalola is now your driver. He asked her, doesn't he have anything he wants to do with his life? What about his dreams? And he's here driving her. What about his own family? Who is watching over them while he's watching over her? He was really angry, and he said his mind. And then the tenny told him she didn't choose that life. She didn't choose this. And Oba says, oh, you didn't choose this life, so does that mean I chose this life? He was quite upset. He got angry. And so as he continued to drive the car, another car hit them. He had a collision with another car. So it scene goes to Ife. While Ife is still waiting, he's calling Oba. He kept calling and calling. Oba didn't pick. So Ife decides to go alone to the Baba's house. He goes to explain to the Baba that his life is in danger, and the Baba promises him that he's going to leave Lagos the next day. So if he walks out of there feeling good about what he has done, right? But immediately if he leaves, we see someone else go into the Baba's house and shoot him dead. So if he is walking, taking his time to go to the club, right? And then from behind in a tricycle, someone has used an axe to hit Ife in his leg, and if he starts to bleed, then people start to come down from the tricycle and they beat him. They use axe to hit him and they beat him, and he's bleeding seriously before he gets shot. Though if he saw the person's face, but the person shoots Ife, right? And Gift is in the club waiting for Ife, Panama. Gift is in the shop waiting. Gift is in the club waiting for Panama, and even the producer Panama wants to work with is already there waiting. So while Panama was being attacked by these men, he had called Gift. So Gift had heard a little bit about what was going on. But by the time she ran there with the rest of their crew, with the rest of the gang, they saw that Ife was already dead. Going back to Oba, after the collision, two men came down and they tried to kidnap Tenny. And Oba was stuck in his seat. He was stuck. The seat belt was stuck because of the collision. But in the end, they did not go with Tenny any longer. They left her and they went away. So that's shock. They were both shocked. They were both surprised. So when they got back home, Oba had to tend to Tenny's wounds. And in the process of tending to her wounds, he got carried away and he had sex with Tenny. All this happened while Ife was being killed in the other place. So yes, and let me address that. Yes, I want to say something about that. I don't know, most of the time movies do that. When one person is dying, the other person is having sex. I don't know why they do that. I wish I could meet a movie producer to explain that to me. Are they trying to show that life is not balanced? I guess maybe that's what they are trying to show. Life is not balanced. Maybe while one person is enjoying, another person is suffering. Because sometimes I don't see that as necessary. Sometimes, like me personally, I would have preferred you show me one scene before you show me the other. So it's either you are showing Oba having sex first before you show me Ife being murdered, or Ife being murdered first before Oba having sex, right? But like putting the two scenes together, I don't know. I feel like it's unfair It's unfair. Whenever I watch that, I feel it's unfair. But I guess there's a message they are trying to pass across. But I don't know. Maybe someday I'll find out. But for now, I don't know. When I watched that scene, if he was being murdered, I cried a river. So the next scene shows Oba. After having sex, he just realized that he was supposed to meet Ife. He just remembered, and then he called. When he called Gift, Gift told him where they were. So he went to the mortuary and he saw Ife's body, and Gift was quite angry with him. Ife's mother also came to the mortuary and saw her son's body. She shed tears. Now that was a powerful. The acting was so good. The acting was so good. Yes, if his mother was acted by Chioma Apota, she was able to act that part so well. I shed tears all over again. I cried another river when I watched that scene. And after that scene, we see Ife's burial, and his mother was giving a speech in the church. She was talking about how she never asked for revenge when Ife's father was killed. And after killing Ife's father, they came for her son as well. So she wanted revenge this time around. She wasn't going to let it go. So she wanted revenge for the death of her son. After the burial ceremony, we see Oba and Gifts with the rest of the gang. They go to attack Cash. They go to attack Cash's gang. That's Ekun and Cash's gang. Oba goes to meet Cash in their hideouts, and they have their own personal fights. And it was so good. Like I said earlier, Toby Bakri is the best person for action movies. He acted it so well. But to my surprise, Latan acted it so well as well. The two of them were so good. That fight scene was so wow. It was wow. It was perfect. I loved the stunts. I loved everything. So they kept fighting, and then they were able to. Cash's crew was able to subdue Oba, and Oba was tied to a chair where Ekun came to meet him. And Ekun asked why Oba and his gang had come to attack them. And Oba said it's because they killed Ife. And then Ekun asked him, who was the person that told you that it was our gang that killed Ife? He said, Oba said it was because Ife saw Cash recognize him after the death of London. So that was why he knew that they were the ones. Ekun explained everything that happened and said after London's death, he went to Olorugun to report Kazim for killing London. But Kazim had lied to Olorugun, saying that he was not the one who shot London. He was saying he agreed that he and London had an argument, but that if he got scared and shot London. So Olorugun has said, okay, because if he killed London, they had to kill Ife back. An eye for an eye and all that. Ekun said he knew it was Kazim who had sent Ife to kill the Baba. He said he knew about everything, and he knew that Kazim was lying. He just wanted to incriminate Ife. So Ekun told Oba that whenever he's ready to deal with Kazim, he can always call on him and they will answer. So that was how they let Oba go. And Oba went on to tell Gifts all that he had learnt in Ekun's place. And it was where they were mourning and they were hurt about what Kazim had done to Ife, that Oba promised that he's going to take out his revenge on Kazim. Oba, Gift and their gang go to kidnap Terrible. Yes, because Ekun told them that it was Terrible who actually shot Ife dead. So they go to kidnap Terrible and they make him to confess. So Terrible confesses everything. Terrible confesses that he's the one who killed Ife. He also confesses that it was Kazim that that got Oba's biological father killed. It was Kazim that got Ife's biological father killed as well, because both of them were against Olorogun, just like London was against Olorogun. So Olorogun has said Kazim to kill their fathers. And then they take us back to the scene where one Eyo masquerade got into a home and shot a man. So that man happened to be Oba's biological father, and the person who wore the Eyo costume was actually Kazim. So we see it in that scene. This gets Oba angry and he shoots terrible. Oba Gift and their gang take the arms that were smuggled in earlier. Kazim has sent Gifts and Terrible on that mission to smuggle in those arms. So they took those arms that were smuggled, then they took it along with them. And then Oba called on all the gangs of Lagos to come together. All the gangs of Lagos came together and they planned how to take Kazim down. During the ceremony, the burial ceremony of London, we see Eyo masquerades dance in to the hall, and then they start shooting sporadically. And we see that they are actually aiming for Kazim. They are actually aiming for the first Elenium, and they are aiming for the Olorogun. They shoot and they keep shooting and keep shooting. They are actually able to kill the first Elenium. Kazim runs out and finds himself on top of the building. That's where Oba goes to meet him, and then they have the fights, and it's from there that Oba figures out that Kazim also killed Nino, because he wanted to be the Elenio, and he knew if Nino was going to be alive, Nino would take that position from him. So he actually killed Nino. Oba was able to figure it out. They kept fighting. I also enjoyed that fighting as well. Toby Bakri was also able to act this one very, very well, and to my surprise, Kazim too was able to act it so well. I was surprised, like, okay, because Kazim is supposed to be an old man at this point, but for an old man he was quite fit. He acted that part well. They kept fighting. I got to a point where Kazim had pointed the gun to Oba, and he told Oba to greet all the people that he has killed on the other side. Oba had already given up. He had lost hope, thinking that he was going to get shot. So he closed his eyes, and then he heard the gunshot, and by the time Oba opened his eyes, he saw that it was Gift who had shot Kazim instead. And Gift tells Kazim that he should be the one to greet the people who are sent to the other side, and she shoots him again, and Kazim falls from the top of the building and he falls on a car. He bleeds to death. That was also a very cool scene. Yes, it was cool. I liked it. The scene was acted like it was actually Hollywood. It looked like a Hollywood movie at that point. So it was quite good. Tenny actually saw her father fall from the top of the building, and she started to scream. By the time she looked at the top of the building, she saw Oba and Gift. They actually showed her their faces, so she will know that they were the ones that killed her father. The narrator tells us how everyone was happy that Olorogun and Kazim were dead, and then we go to the final scene. In the final scene, we see Oba, and he tells us that he has accepted his destiny. His destiny is to remain in Isaleku. He's not going to go anywhere for anything. We see that he's now staying with Ife's mom and Ife's baby mama, and he's a new Elenio. He supports Bamidele for governorship, and Bamidele has actually won, so she's just waiting for her swearing in. We also see Gift and one of the other gang members showing support for Bamidele as well, and they all walk into Oba's beach house. So that was the very last scene of the movie, and there was a write-up after that on how the police is investigating the deaths of Kazim and Olorogun, and that was how the movie ended. So my thoughts: I really enjoyed this movie. It was action packed. The storyline was perfect. The storyline was realistic. Like everybody who watches that movie, you can relate to it at one point or the other. It's a kind of movie that everyone can watch and relate to it. No matter your class, no matter your background, you understand it, you relate to it. You might not like it, but you can relate to it. It's relatable. I like that. I like the action scenes, the fighting scenes. They were so cool. I liked even not to the dressing. They got the dressing so well. They really dressed like a gang. But there was only one part I didn't understand. There was one part that it was a bit off to me. The scene where Nino's men were fighting London's men to revenge Nino's death, right? We see there that Kazim tried to hit London with an axe, and we see that it didn't go through because London is fortified from getting hurt by iron. And to my greatest surprise, in the barber shop, it is still that iron that kills London. For someone who has been fortified from iron, I didn't think that he will get killed by gunshots. You understand what I mean? I wasn't thinking he would get killed by a gunshot. But other than that, every other thing was perfect. The costume was lovely. Everything was just perfect. Like where they were showing the burial ceremony of London, it was so beautiful. It looked real, like it was a real ceremony. The budget, I think the budget of the film was so good. You know that this movie, money was spent making this movie, right? You just know that money was spent making this movie. This person wasn't holding back. It was well directed, well casted. Everyone acted. The acting was so perfect. It was so perfect. Like, in fact, I think this should be like the best movie in this year. I know it's too early to judge the best movie because like this is April, so it's too early to judge best movie because we haven't seen other movies yet. But even if other movies come out, I feel this will still be at least in the top 3. This one will be at least in the top 3. It's going to be one of the best movies this year. I really do hope that this film wins an award anyway. I do hope it wins an award. So that was my review on The Gangs of Lagos, and this is my first review, right? I'm so excited. This is my first movie review, and I'm going to keep doing more movie reviews alongside book reviews as well. So please continue to watch my videos, follow my channel. If you enjoyed this video, press the like button. Thank you for watching. Bye.